Welcome to the season of Advent, friends. Can you believe it? I know. We've been talking about it for a couple weeks now, but it's actually here. Advent wreath is back. I love this time of year. And I hope, too, that you will come to see or have come to see in your spiritual practices already that Advent just isn't about the beginning of the countdown to Christmas, right? But I think it's a way that the church makes a bold declaration that when we pause, when we reflect, when we think deeply about the season that is before us and how we enter it, that is the process where we sanctify time. Time itself is holy. It's a gift that's been given to each of us. We don't know how much we have, right? But it is a gift. And so, in the season where we watch and we wait and we prepare, time takes on a different dimension, I think. It is for us to prepare ourselves for both the Christ that comes in the manger on December 25th, and the Christ that comes at the end of time. And perhaps something that we don't always think about, but the Christ that comes each day when we open our hearts to him. Today we also begin a new lectionary year, right? This is a Matthew year. This is lectionary A, so if you're like me, you're turning in your Book of Common Prayer to sort of the fine print at the back, the place where Chad knows about the table to find Easter, as he let us know there's a formula for that, right? A mathematician helped out with the Book of Common Prayer. How cool is that, right? Teresa? Yeah. But we're in year A, and so if you're in the back of the book, the Sunday lectionary, those were all the readings. And Matthew's Gospel is very unique. I love it. Matthew's Gospel has often been referred to as the teaching Gospel. One of its central tenets, which I think you'll know, is that there is this insistence, right, that Jesus is the one to come to fulfill the hope of all of Israel. That Jesus is Emmanuel, God with us. And I don't think anybody can forget the Great Commission that comes at the end, right? Where Jesus promises to be with his people even unto the end of the age, right? The Great Commission, where he sends out people to baptize in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But today is an interesting way to enter into the Gospel of Matthew. In the reading that we're given today, I think we are given the impression that we are to remind ourselves that Jesus can come at any time. And so I think it's fitting that in our time, where we have Christmases of long ago and Christmases to come, and the Christmas that is opening up before us, right? In our time, the church begins its year not with shepherds and angels. We'll get that a little bit down the road. But the church begins its year with Jesus speaking frankly to us about the unknown hour of his coming. You know, before you and I, we have this really special moment when we turn the lights down low and in the nave, and we light a candle, and Keely's going to play Silent Night for us. Like kids wait. I wait for that moment, right, all year long. But before we do that, Jesus is talking about watchfulness. He's speaking about readiness, and perhaps the danger of drifting into spiritual sleep, lest we miss what is right before us. I think in so many ways, our culture, maybe you'll agree with me on this, in so many ways, our culture prefers Christmas to Advent. Sandy's like, yep, very much. I mean, how can you not, right? The warm glow. I mean, we've had Christmas lights in our neighborhood on houses since before Halloween. People are ready this year, right? I think about all the moments that we'll have to gather as a community coming up in the next few weeks. We'll not only prepare for Christmas, but we'll feast, kind of in this weird sort of liminal space where it's already and not yet. In contrast, right, you get the readings of Advent, the Jesus of today, who gives us something far more bracing to consider. A sense of urgency. Then also this request from the church to slow down. What are we to make of that seeming contradiction? I think if we think about it, we think about the tradition that we've been given in Advent and the readings that we've been given to hold in this season of our lives, I think we're reminded that faith is not a nostalgic exercise. Advent is the church's way of responding to that. Advent is a living readiness. And the readings that we get, though abrupt, are describing a readiness that I hope we can see as not an anxious readiness, but an attentive readiness. And that's important for us to recall at the outset of Advent, because in the next several weeks we're gonna be encountering images that might unsettle us. Jesus sure uses one today, recalling the flood. I know we have a nice little godly play story up there with a toy boat, but the flood was anything but. And that image is used to draw our attention today. People were working and eating and planting, but they were caught unprepared. And then we have these images of people grinding meal, two women grinding meal, and one is there and one is left. But though these images are hard for us to hear sometimes, I hope that we can hear them in a way that doesn't place judgment in a position where the readings are for judgment's sake. Does that make sense? The point is not judgment for judgment's sake. The point is readiness. Judgment will be involved, but the point is to prepare ourselves. Christ will come, and the human heart must be a place ready for him to enter. I think if we can hold that dynamic, right, with this understanding that when Jesus teaches us, his teachings are highly relational. Now, Jesus is never looking at Susie and say, Susie, let's just look at the sky and that will tell us everything, right? He's more concerned with Susie. Their teachings are highly relational, person to person. It's not asking us to watch something that crosses the sky, but to prepare a place in our heart for faith to take root. And the image that comes to my mind when I think about preparing a place is this image of hospitality. And you probably know this well because you just Some of you perhaps just open your homes up to a lot of people, or you went to a different place and you got your space ready for Thanksgiving. I don't know about you, but I know that Glenn was sort of talking about this morning, that the season of preparation, we're going to be cleaning house, you know? Part of Advent, I think, in some houses is getting out some decorations, maybe, yes? Does that happen, Chris? As she sinks down. Right? And so as we prepare our homes, right, naturally when you pick things up and put them away, you might clean it a little bit, get in the nooks and crannies, right? I know in our house we'll be rearranging knickknacks until December 24th, right? And when you rearrange these knickknacks, I love decorating. Get trouble, foul. Sometimes when we rearrange these knickknacks, do you ever notice this? You pick up things that you didn't realize you had, or you forgot you had, and you're like, oh yeah, here's Paxton when he was 3 months old. Right? We tend to the corners and edges of our places because we want the guest to feel welcome, to be seen, and to be cherished. And so if nothing else, friends, if you leave here with nothing else today, perhaps you can think of Advent as sort of a season of holy housekeeping, of preparing a place for Jesus within yourself. And I'm not talking about the hurried household cleaning, that the guest is, it's tomorrow and the guest is almost here, so we better just hit the high spots. But I'm talking about the sort of deep clean, right, that you enter into with thoughtful preparation, that when the guest arrives, the guest realizes that they matter. That when the guest arrives, it says something to the effect that your presence changes this home. And so here are some questions that you might ask yourself before you start nesting this Advent season. What is a corner in your life that needs attention before Jesus arrives? If you're like me, is there any spiritual clutter that needs to be picked up and dealt with? Maybe needs to be put away so that there's space. Is there a room in your heart that's meant to be opened up in this season? And what table in your life have you been meaning to set? Jesus does not tell us when he will come, because the point, I think, is not the timing. It's our orientation. And the Christian life is meant to be a home that's perpetually ready for Jesus to come. And that theme will come to us again and again in the Gospel of Matthew, beginning with John the Baptist. Prepare the way of the Lord. Jesus will begin his great teaching Sermon on the Mount with, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. These are people whose hearts have room for Jesus. He will famously tell the parable of the foolish and the wise maidens, urging his followers to keep their lamps trimmed and burning. And he will speak about servants set over households who must act justly, whether the master is home or not. And so throughout Matthew's gospel, we will return to Advent themes over and over again as Matthew shapes us into stewards of the kingdom. People who expect Christ, not someday, but now. in the ordinary spaces where we work, where we live, where we cook, where we wait, and where we watch. Advent will ask us in all of those spaces, will he have room? So here's my invitation for this season. I want for you to leave church today, and I want you to think about what is one concrete thing that I can do in this season of preparation that will prepare a place for Jesus. Maybe it's in addition to something that you're already doing, or maybe you have something that works. It doesn't have to be something grand. One of my Advent practices is that I watch a version of the Christmas Carol, starting all the way back in the 1920s. That has Advent themes. And maybe it has, maybe I have it with an old Fezziwig ale. Advent doesn't have to be dreary, folks. Okay? Maybe your practice is to set aside 5 minutes for silence, somewhere in a nook or a cranny in your house where it's just going to be you. Maybe it's making a list of people that you need to forgive, and then praying for the courage to follow through with that. Maybe it's simplifying one aspect of your life, giving something up, so that you can make room for the thing that really matters. Maybe it's giving generously to someone who cannot repay you. Maybe it's creating a space in your home, in your office, in your locker at school. That'd be a good one. Maybe don't light a candle where you can promise to meet God each day. And then let those practices be your way of preparing a guest room for Christ.